Hey, what's good, YouTube? We're getting into the ninth week of the SPL. It's very interesting. Only one team out of six that are going to DreamHack from North America and Europe are actually clinched or qualified already, and that'll be Panthera. Everybody else is completely up in the air, and honestly, with the way the competition is looking, it looks like that's going to be the jam for at least until next week. Everything is really close. So these games are actually mad close as well. So it's kind of hard picking them out. I'm going to do my best to sort of explain why I'm going in the directions that I'm going. But in any case, why don't we just start off with the first day will be, of course, a Thursday. And that's tomorrow. It's Wednesday night right now. I guess technically it's Thursday, but that's neither here nor there, folks. Envy versus Soar Gaming. So we've got a really good team in Soar, and then we have Envy, who has really struggled. I mean, their win-loss records are almost the opposite of each other, right? Team Envious has won 7 and lost 15. Meanwhile, Soar Gaming, they've won 17 and they've lost 7. Soar has really stuck with the roster. They've kind of had one idea, one win strategy, one way of winning for the entire year. They've perfected that, or at least they've strived to perfect that. It's become very, very good. And Soar in general just look like a well put together team, ready to go for something that's close to a championship or a win at DreamHack, let alone going to DreamHack. Envy, on the other hand, they've tried different amalgamations of rosters and people on board, people in different roles, people on different stops, etc. So it's a little bit more interesting for Envy as far as how this team finds success. At the end of the day, it's really not that much of a conversation. Soar is the clear winner here. But with that in mind, Envy did take on Snoopy last week, and I think that's a long-term acquisition in the sense that, can Envy win this game? Honestly, probably not. But Snoopy put them in a position to almost win some games last week, which was really rough against ALG. With the acquisition of Weekend, that team has gotten a lot better. So with Envy on the other side of this, with Snoopy with an extra week of practice, they will look a lot better. Don't expect to see the same Envy that we've seen for a while come fall split if this team sticks together, which I just like to see teams stick to their guns. If this team sticks together come fall split, I think this is a team that can actually compete. There's there's a ton of talent on this actual roster, but they haven't really gotten a chance to sit down and really assess how to get better because the roster just hasn't been the same. Now I think it's a good spot, and going forward they'll be better, but for now, sorry. LG versus Randos. The Rise of the Clowns is unfortunately not too real. The Randozos are a little bit better. They're a lot of bit better than they started off the season. Again, stable roster has put them in a better position to improve. We're seeing Skilldon just do his thing. With that in mind, Randozos will have a sub. It's going to be J Marvels. If you don't know who he is, he's a ROM trick shotter. Sweet. He'll be subbing in for the Randozos against Luminosity. I think this is a 2-0. This is not out of the question for Randozos to steal a game. This can totally be a split. I don't think it's possible to really be a 2-0, but with just thinking about the teams here, Randozos have improved enough to the point that they are good enough to take a game off with Meerkat. I don't know how big of a swap J Marvels will be, how talented he is. I really don't know anything about him. He shoots real good on ROM. As far as his real application to a pro team, I have no clue whatsoever. So Luminosity gets this 2-0 on my safe bet. We'll see what happens if Randozos can turn up, but I doubt it. Enemy versus Eager is one of the biggest games of the frickin' season. This is going to be this is going to be so much fun. This is going to be out of this world. These two teams are extremely close. You can see separated by 2 wins, and it's just 2 wins that Eager simply haven't played. These teams are very different in how they're built. Eager has a couple of just pillars of spotlight players, dudes like Zapman and dudes like DJ Pernicus and Aurora that have really set them, and Divios that, hey, we have once been in conversation to be the best in our position, right? These guys, well, outside of DJ Pernicus, I think a lot of people have respected a lot of these players, and DJ Pernicus honestly has been underappreciated in the scene. Team Eager has a lot of name power. Enemy does not have much name power outside of Pain. Chaos a little bit, as shown up at Worlds last year. But I think that these teams they have 2 very different approaches to the game by way of building their team. They have 2 different approaches by way of playing the game. Enemies seem to be very concerned with map objective control and things of that nature, fantastic calls, whereas Eager is more about just like, yo, we can beat you up. These teams are really well geared towards each other, both of which are trying to get towards DreamHack. Keep in mind, these are your number 2 and number 3 teams. Soar number 1 at the moment. So Eager and Enemy, they're fighting over a lot here. Eager wins 2, then Enemy winds up 16 and 8. They drop down. If Enemy win 2, now all of a sudden that's a big spread for Eager to catch up to. That's a little bit more difficult. Enemy's going to flounder here. I have this as a 2-0 to Eager. I think that Eager have been performing extremely well, very hot. Enemy has been doing just as well as they have been the whole season. So I think the safe bet here is a split down the middle. But that's the safe bet. I think that Eager has the potential to go ahead and secure this. And I said this on a broadcast, and it sounds weird, but just bear with me. Eager is a team that's motivated by winning. And obviously every team wants to win, right? But Eager in a different way. And I thought this and I said this, and then Anatoly backed me up, and Toly has played with these guys, so obviously I'm on to something here. Players like Zapman and DJ Pernicus and Divios, they are just playing to win. That's what they're doing. And all players are doing that, and it's hard for me to verbalize what I mean by this, but there's just a little bit more competitive drive, I think, in those 3 players and in some of the other members on the team as well. And so Eager here towards the end of the season, this team does not miss DreamHack, and I think that's the conversation on the team. So Eager, I take the 2-0. If you want to be safe with your FP, bet down the middle. Moving on to Europe for Friday, we've got Panthera versus Hunger for More. This was the easiest question to ask me for the entirety of the season up until this week. Hungry for More against Panthera. Realistically, I don't think that Hungry for More are there yet, but these won't be blowouts. Panthera will 2-0, but Hungry for More has improved a lot throughout the season, and they will show it and they will prove it. Some more daring people have been going for the split on this one. I don't think you're crazy, but you're definitely out there. If you have 2-0 Hungry for More, I don't know what to say to you, dude. Paradigm versus Dignitas. Again, this is a very interesting one. I think Paradigm and Dignitas throughout the course of the season looked like very similar squads. And then as we come down to the stretch and it's time to close out the season, Dignitas has waned a little bit. They faltered a little bit. This was a team that I was super hot on. They're one of my favorite squads in Europe right now. I don't know if they're as hot as they were 2 weeks ago. And Paradigm, on the other hand, these guys go the other way around. These guys, Paradigm are the dudes that get a homework assignment, right? And it's a month-long homework assignment. And then the whole month, they're just chilling and doing their thing. But then 2 days before it's due, they turn up, they churn out some of the coolest work you've ever seen, and they get an A+ with extra credit on it. That's who Paradigm are. As we're coming down to the stretch, week 9, week 10, the final moments of the first split of the SPL this year, Paradigm are turning it up. And they're winding up on a different level. And I think the Paradigm that we saw last week and a little bit of what we saw the week before, right after they faltered against one of the lower-end teams, is a much different Paradigm than we saw in the beginning of the season. These guys are motivated. I think you respect the crown here. And despite the fact that I want I actually want to see Team Dignitas perform well. I think they've sort of earned it throughout the course of the season. I think this winds up just going to Paradigm. Fanatic versus Cringe crew. I mean, Fanatic is... The best player on Fanatic is now sitting on a beach drinking a beer, and that's where, I mean, Fanatic is just a complete disappointment this season. There has not been a positive note for me on Fanatic. Even the existence of Reels still keeping up competitively with the rest of the people in his position, that just bothers me because he's so much better than this team. Without him, it's been Zero's Maniac and 3 dudes from Myrmidons, which... No shade meant to throw at them. They're not going to fit. Like, there's nothing you can do to this team. Cringe crew wins 2-0 because who the hell are Fanatic anyway? Torpedo Gaming versus Leftovers. These are 2 evenly matched teams, I would say, a couple of weeks ago. Leftovers seem to have been disjointed and just don't seem to be the same team that I think we all got to see at the beginning of the season for a while. Torpedo Gaming here are a little bit better than Leftovers in general, and then especially as these come down to it, Torpedo looking just a little bit hotter. Paradigm versus Fanatic. I mean, if Paradigm are the crown, these are what's lower than a peasant, man. Fanatic is just. I'm so upset. Reels is a fantastic player, and a lot of those dudes mean well and they play well, but it just hasn't happened this season. And nothing has been done to really turn it around. And the team has just been committed to poor calls, poor ideas, poor strategy from the top down. And in general, Fnatic has just dropped the ball in every hand and every opportunity that they could have even thought about possessing the ball. Fnatic will struggle against one of the easier teams in Cringe Crew earlier in this week. If you think Fnatic has a chance against Paradigm, check your medication, man. This is just not going to happen. Paradigm get an easy 2-0 and then helps them out walk directly towards DreamHack. Allegiance versus Denial. This one's a little bit more interesting because Denial has actually been a respectable team and they weren't looking good early on despite being very strong on paper and then made the necessary changes to turn that around. They made a couple of roster changes. They made a couple of adjustments to their grand strategy. And now you see Denial Esports that's a much different team. One that 2-3 weeks ago I tell you this team is, there's no way they're going to DreamHack, and now we're sitting here and they're completely, not everything has turned around, but they're definitely in a position to at least contend for DreamHack. They're certainly the dark horse, or the dark wolf in this case, but I think Denial Esports definitely has a chance. Allegiance, it's their turn to play spoiler. Allegiance certainly aren't going to DreamHack. They've had a rocky season. It hasn't been as bad as it could have been, and I think that's deserving of a conversation. Allegiance have looked better than the bottom, and some of the things that have happened throughout the season have set them up for the bottom. Between Dare to Care and Mr. Mackey finally landing on Weekend, what a good call picking up Weekend. Immediate, this team has already gotten better. We saw them play against Envy. They looked not like a different squad. They looked like an improved version of their current squad. This won't be a walk in the park for Denial, but they will win the games. It won't be as easy as playing Allegiance has been for a team of Denial's caliber. Eager versus Randozos. Get zapulated, kids. Cringe Crew versus Leftovers. Again, these teams were once very even, but Leftovers have, fallen off. They just didn't even think about getting on in the first place. They 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 4 weeks of real solid play where I was excited to talk about them. I thought that Badger possibly could be the next great support leader like we see in players like Raffer and players like Pain to Beyond, but that's shown to not be the case. Cringe Crew. Enemy versus Denial. Again, this same conversation we just had about Denial versus Allegiance, but in the other direction. Denial has had some struggles, but they've improved very much so throughout the course of the season. They've made all the right calls. Enemy, this is tough for Enemy here. I think Enemy will split. I think this is a game that Denial can possibly 2-0 here. If you're a little bit more daring, go for the Orange Dogs. But I think this one winds up being a split. I think that Enemy can just go ahead and do that, which is rough. Enemy's trying to get to DreamHack, and I have predicted that they're going to lose 2 to Eager and at least 1 to Denial. I can definitely see a world where the Orange Dog meme sports double the enemies. We shall see. Realistically, I think the split is probably the better call, but it's totally within the realm of possibility that those individuals just get smoked out. Just to recap, Envy versus Soar. Envy will get better in the long run if they even decide to keep this team for the fall split. But right now, Soar is just, quite literally, they're doing their namesake. They're just soaring over everybody. Luminosity versus Randozos. Luminosity have been looking better. Randozos trade Meerkat out for a trick shotter on YouTube. Awesome. Enemy versus Eager. This one will be tight. I think Eager winds up on top here. I think Eager just have been a little bit more hot than Enemy lately. And the individual Enemy play like a generally consistent winning strategy game. Eager have this catalyst that just sometimes pops completely off. And I think that's what happens. Panthera versus Hungry for More. HFM look fantastic, but come on, bro. Dignitas versus Paradigm. These teams, I think, can split. But I think it's more like an 80-20% chance. 80% chance that Paradigm 2-0s, 20% chance that Dignitas gets the split. Dignitas aren't as hot as they were in the middle of the season when I was excited. Cringe over Fanatic, there really isn't anything to talk about there. Torpedo versus Leftovers. again, these teams were both trending upwards, and then Leftovers fell off the face of the planet. Torpedo is just they've just split with everybody. I think this is the team that they can actually beat. The other one being Fanatic, who Paradigm's going to beat, because obviously Allegiance versus Denial. Denial 2-0s here, but it will be tough. Allegiance got a lot better with Eager, and Denial has to respect that. I don't like to imply that players don't respect each other, but Denial will definitely have to pull out some extra, definitely give a shit about ALG, because Weekend's tough. Eager versus randos, again, guys, sorry, but get zapulated. CC versus Leftovers, same old story. CC's looking a lot better, Leftovers not. And then this is the one that Denial might even 2-0 here, but I think Split's more reasonable. So that's my picks for next week, number 9. Let me know what was a little bit different in the comments and everything, and subscribe so that you can get this stuff on the weekly basis or whenever I actually decide to do it. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you on the stream and all that fun stuff. Peace out.